whose eyes bore into her, dark and all-seeing. "Then swear it before the gods." 2 junior elders stepped forward, holding the staff of truth, a sacred piece of twisted ironwood. It was said to be alive with the spirits of the ancestors, and any who lied while swearing upon it would be struck down by the gods within 4 market days. "Place your hand upon the staff," Ikuku commanded. Nika hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. Her fingers brushed the staff, and a strange warmth coursed through her body. "Swear now," Ikuku said. "If you speak falsely, the gods will strike you down." "I swear," Nika said, her voice ringing clear. "I am innocent of these accusations. May the gods take my life if I speak falsely." Ikuku began a low chant, his voice rising and falling in an ancient rhythm. The air around the staff seemed to hum, and a faint glow emanated from it. The crowd gasped, many clutching their amulets. When the chant ended, Ikuku rose, his tall frame towering over Nika. "The gods have heard your oath," he said. "If you have lied, they will strike you down within 4 market days. Let all bear witness." The strange man's first visit marked the beginning of many. The air grew thick in Neka's bamboo hut one night. Her palm oil lamp flickered weakly, casting dancing shadows on the mud walls. Neka pulled her wrapper tighter around her shoulders, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. Sleep came fitfully that night. That's when she first felt him, strong arms wrapping around her body, warmth seeping into her bones despite the night's chill. Her first instinct was to scream, to fight, to call for help, but something stopped her. His touch sent waves of pleasure through her body, awakening parts of her that had grown cold and numb from Maduka's rejection. Since the whispers of her barrenness had spread through the village like wildfire, Maduka had grown distant. He no longer looked at her with the love that once burned in his eyes. Instead, his gaze held only disappointment, sometimes disgust. But this stranger, this nightly visitor, touched her as if she were precious. His hands traced patterns on her skin that left her trembling, yearning for more. When morning came, she wondered if it had been a dream, but the lingering ache in her body and the warmth where his hands had been, these were real. Days passed, and Neka found herself living 2 lives. During daylight hours, she remained a quiet, dutiful wife the village had always known. She pounded yam with the other women, fetched water from the stream, and kept her eyes downcast when the mothers in the village proudly displayed their swollen bellies or bouncing babies. At night, she came alive. Her mysterious lover visited more frequently, his presence both thrilling and terrifying. He barely spoke, but his touch said everything, his silence didn't. In his arms, she wasn't the barren woman who brought shame to her husband's house. She was desired, wanted, complete. At the stream, while washing clothes, Neka often caught herself smiling at memories of the previous night. She would replay every moment in her mind, the undeniable pull she felt toward him, as if some ancient magic bound them together. Questions plagued her quiet moments. Who was he? How did he enter her hut undetected night after night? Why did his skin sometimes feel cool and slick, like river stones after rain? These thoughts gnawed at her. One night, she finally gathered her courage. "Who are you?" she whispered into the darkness. He said nothing, only held her gaze with those strange, mesmerizing eyes. Something in their depths made her shiver. Within a fortnight, his visits had become her most treasured secret. She no longer questioned his presence, accepting whatever moments of joy she could steal in the darkness. His words, though few, soothed her wounded soul like balm, but beyond the sanctuary of her hut, trouble was brewing. Amaka had been watching. Her sharp eyes noted the changes in Neka, the way she carried herself with new confidence, how her laughter, once rare and forced, now came easily. More concerning were the strange sounds that drifted from Neka's hut at night. From her own hut across the compound, Amaka would stay awake, peeling cassava by lamplight, her ears straining to catch every sound. Night after night, she gathered her evidence, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Mama," Amaka called out one evening to the older woman sorting beans nearby. "Do you hear what I hear?" The older woman paused her work, weathered hands hovering over the beans. "What are you talking about, child?" Amaka leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The sounds from Nekka's hut at night. It's almost like someone is with her." Mama's eyes narrowed down to her offhand direction. The soft moans of a woman when she's with a man. Nekka is seeing someone other than Maduka. The revelation hit Mama like a physical blow. She set down her bowl of beans with such force that several scattered across the packed earth. "Are you certain?" "Listen tonight, Mama. You'll hear what I mean." That night, Mama crept through the darkness like a hunting leopard, her feet silent on the ground. She positioned herself near Nekka's hut, straining to hear. Sure enough, the soft sounds of pleasure drifted through the night air. Her face hardened with each passing moment, anger building in her chest. The next morning, Mama stormed straight to Maduka's farm. She found him tending to his yam seedlings. "Maduka!" Her voice cut through the morning air like a machete. "I have always known you were weak, but I did not know you were this spineless." Maduka straightened up, confusion written across his face. "Mama, what do you mean? Your barren wife is dishonoring your name. She brings shame to this house." "What are you talking about, Mama? Ask her what she does at night, or better yet, who comes to her." Maduka's face darkened like the sky before a storm. "Mama, it cannot be. It cannot be. You see what I say, you behave like a sheep." Mama spat on the ground, her disgust evident. "Keep saying it cannot be until your name becomes mud in this village." Though Maduka tried to dismiss his mother's words, doubt had taken root in his heart. He began watching Nekka more closely, noting things he hadn't before. How she seemed distracted during the day, lost in her own thoughts. How she smiled to herself when she thought no one was looking. The strange marks that appeared on her body, like passionate encounters. The whispers spread through the village like wildfire in the dry season. Women at the stream would fall silent when Nekka approached, their eyes following her every move. Men would look away when she passed, some smirking, others frowning with disapproval. The village, once merely indifferent to her barrenness, now buzzed with speculation about her supposed infidelity. One evening, as Nekka drew water from the stream, she overheard two women talking, their voices carrying clearly across the water. "Did you hear?" Not bothering to lower her voice. "They say she entertains different men at night." "Men?" The other woman's eyes widened with scandal. "No wonder she's suddenly with child." Nekka's hand flew to her stomach, the water gourd forgotten. She hadn't told anyone yet, but she knew it was true. Her monthly blood had stopped, and her breasts had grown tender. Fear gripped her heart as she realized the magnitude of what was happening. The situation came to a head when Maduka noticed her growing belly. He confronted her one night, his anger barely contained. "Whose child do you carry?" he demanded, towering over her. Nekka met his eyes steadily, drawing strength from some deep well within herself. "Yours, my husband." "Lies!" He slammed his fist against the wall, making her jump. "I barely touch you anymore. My husband, for the few times you have touched me these past moons, the gods smiled on me." "Nekka, you dare lie to me? The whole village knows you entertain another man in my house." "Enough!" His voice cracked like thunder. "Tomorrow, you will face the Council of Elders and the dread deity. Let them judge you." That night, as Nekka's tears fell silently onto her sleeping mat, her mysterious lover appeared once more. For the first time, moonlight illuminated him clearly. His skin had an unusual dark sheen that made her breath catch in her throat, and his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that both frightened and thrilled her. "Why do you cry, beautiful one?" His voice was deep, smooth like honey dripping from a comb. Nekka wiped her tears. Something about his words, the tenderness in his voice, made Nekka's defenses crumble. She told him everything. About her marriage, about Maduka's growing coldness, about the whispers that followed her through the village like persistent shadows. The stranger listened without judgment, his eyes never leaving her face. His hands found their way to her, and despite her fears about the coming day, her body responded to his touch, as it always had. In his embrace she found a passion that made Maduka's attentions pale in comparison. As he prepared to leave, Necker whispered, "Will you tell me who you are now?" A thick silence hung between them. Then he finally spoke, "I am yours, and you are mine." With those words he vanished into the shadows. The sun climbed reluctantly into the sky the next morning. The villagers had gathered beneath the ancient iroko tree, their murmurs a low hum of judgment. In the center of the square stood Necker, her face pale but defiant, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. The council of elders sat in a semicircle, their white wrappers pristine and their expressions grim. Ikuku, the fearsome medicine man, sat cross-legged before them, his painted face unreadable, his staff of truth resting against his lap. Aforgeri, the eldest of the council, raised his hand to silence the crowd. "Today, the gods bear witness to our judgment," he proclaimed, his voice carrying over the hushed square. "Necker, daughter of this land, you stand accused of infidelity and of bringing shame to your husband's house. Do you deny these accusations?" Necker's voice was steady, though her hands trembled. "I deny them. No man has shared my bed save my husband." Ikuku's eyes bore into her, dark and all-seeing. "Then swear it before the gods." Two junior elders stepped forward, holding the staff of truth, a sacred piece of twisted ironwood. It was said to be alive with the spirits of the ancestors, and any who lied while swearing upon it would be struck down by the gods within 4 market days. "Place your hand upon the staff," Ikuku commanded. Necker hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. Her fingers brushed the staff, and a strange warmth coursed through her body. "Swear now," Ikuku said. "If you speak falsely, the gods will strike you down." "I swear," Necker said, her voice ringing clear. "I am innocent of these accusations. May the gods take my life if I speak falsely." Ikuku began a low chant, his voice rising and falling in an ancient rhythm. The air around the staff seemed to hum, and a faint glow emanated from it. The crowd gasped, many clutching their amulets. When the chant ended, Ikuku rose, his tall frame towering over Necker. "The gods have heard your oath," he said. "If you have lied, they will strike you down within 4 market days. Let all bear witness." From that day on, Necker became an outcast. In the marketplace, women whispered and crossed to the other side when they saw her approaching. The friendly greetings she once exchanged had turned into cold stares and muttered insults. Children ran from her, their mothers pulling them close as if her presence alone was a contagion. At home, the hostility was even worse. Maduka, who had grown distant before, now loathed her openly. He refused to eat the meal she prepared. He spoke to her only in clipped tones. Mama took every opportunity to ridicule her. "Barren and shameless," she would mutter, loud enough for Necker to hear. "The gods will deal with you soon enough." Amaka delighted in her misery. "What will you do when the gods strike you down, Necker?" she sneered one evening. "Shall I inherit your wrapper and beads?" Necker bore it all in silence, her head held high even as her heart broke. The full market days stretched before her like an eternity. At night, she lay awake, her mind racing. She knew the truth, knew her guilt, but still, she clung to a sliver of hope. On the 4th market day, the entire village watched her closely. Women whispered behind their palms. Men cast her furtive glances. The day passed slowly, the sun crawling across the sky. As evening fell, Necker walked to the marketplace, her steps deliberate, her heart pounding. The villagers gasped as she walked through the square. She looked regal, unbent by the weight of their accusations, and nothing happened. No lightning struck, no sudden illness overcame her. The gods were silent. As the days turned to weeks, it became clear that the gods would not act. Necker lived on, her health unimpaired, her steps sure. The whispers in the village began to change. Perhaps the gods have truly judged her innocent, some said. Others muttered, "The gods are slow to anger, but they will act in their own time." But no retribution came. At home, Maduka remained cold and distant, but his anger no longer burned as brightly. Mama and Amaka still ridiculed her, but their taunts carried a hint of uncertainty. Mama's humiliation had grown unbearable. The gods had judged Necker innocent, and instead of bringing honor to the family, Mama's accusations had left her with a reputation for jealousy and malice. Even Maduka, once her loyal son, had begun to question her intentions. His gradual acceptance of Neka's pregnancy only deepened her shame. Amaka found Mama pacing the courtyard one evening. "Mama," she said, her voice low and conspiratorial. "Why do you let this witch mock us? The gods may be blind, but we are not." Mama turned to her, her face lined with fury and despair. "What can I do, Amaka? The gods have spoken, and yet my spirit cannot accept it." Amaka leaned closer, her voice a whisper now. "There are ways, Mama. Not everything must be left to the gods. Sometimes we must take matters into our own hands." Mama's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Amaka smiled. "In the neighboring town, he can provide solutions." The seed of vengeance took root. That very night, Mama prepared for her journey, her heart heavy with a dangerous mix of anger and desperation. She left before dawn, accompanied only by the occasional chirp of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the wind. The medicine man lived on the outskirts of the neighboring town, in a small hut shrouded by thick forest. His reputation as a powerful sorcerer preceded him, and Mama approached with a mixture of fear and determination. "What do you seek, old woman?" the medicine man asked, his voice raspy but commanding. "I seek justice," Mama replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I seek to end the life of a woman who has brought shame upon my family." The medicine man regarded her with cold, calculating eyes. "Justice or vengeance? Does it matter?" Mama snapped. "She has taken everything from me. I want her gone." The medicine man chuckled darkly. "Very well." The sorcerer handed her a small clay pot filled with a dark, viscous liquid. "Pour this on her doorstep at midnight. By dawn she will be no more." Mama took the pot, dropped a bag of cowries for the sorcerer, and took her leave without looking back. She returned by nightfall, when everyone had slept. Even Neka was fitfully asleep. She crept to Neka's doorstep and began emptying the content of the clay pot the sorcerer gave her. Just then she heard a